Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the Impact Series. It is the best time of the week. My name is Jessica Lauretti. I am the managing director of the Anthem Awards. We have an amazing show for you here today. First, I want to just mention that our final entry deadline for the second annual Anthem Awards is coming up on Friday, September 23rd. It is 2 weeks from this Friday. So make sure if you're working on purpose and mission driven work at a brand, a nonprofit organization, a creative agency, a production company, a documentary filmmaking group, anything that you do that works within the social impact sector, make sure that you get your entries in before Friday, September 23rd. You can submit everything at anthemawards.com. All the information that you need is right there. And we have our customer service team standing by. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and to email us. Okay, and without further ado, I would love to welcome to the virtual stage here today, Karen Cahn, who is the founder and CEO of IFundWomen and is also an inaugural winner of an Anthem Award. So congratulations and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Jessica. I'm so excited to be here representing my team. This was a huge team effort. And so obviously I'm not. The trophy goes to all the IFundWomen people, especially the people working on this project. So, but thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Live stream to all of the internet.
Yeah. Where are you joining
us
today?
I am coming in from the beautiful Garden State. And it's sunny out. And that's what I got, Jessica. It's really just a low bar for happiness right now.
I hear you. I am in Brooklyn and I stepped outside this morning and thought, wow, this is a perfect day today. So I totally appreciate that. Well, thank you so much again for joining us. Tell us all about IFundWomen. What inspired you to start it? Tell us the story behind the concept and your development and launch.
I would be happy to. So quite simply, IFundWomen is the go-to money marketplace for women entrepreneurs. So we are all about driving funding in the form of startup capital, in the form of revenue, in the form of grants, crowdfunding, any way we can find to drive capital in the hands of female entrepreneurs. That's what we do. So we've got products like a crowdfunding product, which drive cash into early stage entrepreneurs' hands. We've got an enterprise brokered grants product where we broker grants on behalf of enterprises like Visa and Unilever and P&G Ventures and Comcast, and the list goes on. And we have a new product, IFundWomen Services X, which drives revenue to business services entrepreneurs through our marketplace, where they are getting business from our 200,000 entrepreneurs that are on our platform. So we're all about driving money to the hands of entrepreneurs. Like, that's what we do. It's fun.
I know that there are some staggering statistics about the disparity in which men and female entrepreneurs receive funding. Can you share a little bit about that, like context and backstory about why this is such important work?
Yes, staggering is a
one way to put it.
Oh yeah. So we started IFundWomen because we were our own customers. So this is my second startup. My first startup was a spectacular failure. And the reason why so many startups fail, specifically for women entrepreneurs, is because of the lack of funding. I came out of a long career at Google and YouTube, and I'm a white woman in New York with lots of connections and money. And you would think, on paper, it would have been easy for me to raise venture capital, right?
Yeah.
Audience, yes, we're nodding. No, it was no different for me than it was for any other woman. The stats are disgusting. So last year, out of the roughly $300 billion deployed in venture capital alone in this country, male-founded teams received about 97%, a little over 97% of it. So all women-founded startup teams get 2.2% of venture capital. Female founders of color, even more gross, get 0.64%. So we're like all a rounding error. in the VC world. And the funding gap problem isn't just relegated to venture capital, as you know, Jessica. There are implicit biases and across the entire financial services system.
Right.
Quite frankly, the algorithms are broken. Whether
Mhm.
it's going for a small business loan, women get, 30 to 40% less on a loan amount and a
Mhm.
higher rate than an analogous business started by a
Mhm.
male founder. Period, full stop. In some places, in my state, sadly, at some banks, women still have to get a male cosigner
Oh,
on the
geez.
loan.
Mhm.
No joke.
Yeah.
You know, credit scores. There's so many things that are baked into the algorithms that were basically built years ago,
Mhm.
data put in by humans. So it's not like we can't blame the machines. The humans
Right.
are responsible, that
Right.
are just littered with sexism, racism, and all the things. So IFundWomen is really here to rewrite the code on funding and who should get funding, because the reality is that there have been studies upon studies about the efficacy of
Mm.
women founders and women entrepreneurs when we decide to jump into the pool and get
Mm.
over the confidence gap that we absolutely have because we've been told no and to be
Right.
quiet and don't talk about money and to smile for centuries. So when we
Mhm.
can get over that confidence gap and jump into the entrepreneurship pool, we drive more revenue than our male counterparts. We drive higher returns for the funds that support us. We are better entrepreneurs. So
Mhm.
the problem is just it's absolutely unfair because
Mhm.
we're better entrepreneurs, but we get a fraction of the funding.
Mm.
It's I could go on and on about this.
I know. I've heard some really egregious, like, anecdotes as well about folks being told, like, "Oh, you have, like, a really interesting company for, like, a female entrepreneur," or, "A really great business for, like, for a woman," or something like that. Like, these are real things that people in the venture capital world, private equity world, all of these financial spaces actually say to other human beings with a straight face.
Girl, I know. I know. There ain't enough Botox in the state of New Jersey to keep this face looking fresh and fabulous because yeah, no, it's a thing. But the good news is, let me not BS the audience. It's
Mm.
hard to have good news, but the
Yep.
opportunity the
Mhm.
opportunity is there for us to take, and we are absolutely taking it.
Mhm.
If VCs and lenders and banks want to ignore the
Mhm.
highly lucrative women's entrepreneurship space,
Mhm.
peace out, people, because we're owning it,
Yeah.
and that's fine. So it's what we see every day on the platform with our 200,000 members are women raising capital,
Mhm.
hiring people. In fact, we're just about to run our 6-year impact study, but as of 5 years, which was a year ago, we had driven $135 million in early stage capital to about 5,000 of our customers that they
Mm.
would never have access to otherwise. And
Wow.
those 5,000 businesses had created 30,000 new jobs in the United States. 30,000
Mm.
from our little platform that like people
That's
may
incredible.
or may not know about. So
Right.
we're just quietly over here. Like, I don't seem so quiet right now because this is like the first live stream I've been on, and frankly, the first makeup I've put on in like months. So
Years.
I'm all jacked up on happy juice, but like we've just been quietly over here doing the work and helping women get funded. And that funding and that confidence and that team around them
Hmm.
that IFundWomen has provided has given people just the absolute rocket fuel that they needed to go off and create 30,000 new jobs and create all this, revenue for themselves
Yeah.
and businesses that are raising venture capital.
Mhm.
So it's actually really fun and exciting. We try not
Yeah.
to think about the egregious numbers anymore, the
I
data,
know.
because it's like it
I
it
know, but some people don't know, so I just wanna make sure people get that context. Walk us through, like, how does the whole platform work? Like, say, like, I'm starting a new company, how do I participate?
yeah, absolutely. So we work with entrepreneurs really up until they have got product market fit and they
Mm.
just don't need us anymore, right?
Okay.
And that can take 5 years.
Right.
We always say like an overnight success takes 5 to 10 years, and it's really kind of true,
Yep.
right? So the first year you're starting a business, you're like, I'm excited. I'm going to get my URL. I'm going to get my website built. I'm going to get my app built, blah, blah, blah. What are you doing? You're racking up credit card debt. You don't have any funding. So what you would do then is come to IFundWomen. You could either, the best way to start, frankly, is to come to IFundWomen, attend some free workshops about starting a business, about crowdfunding, about funding sources. We have workshops every day on different sort of like 101 topics on starting a business, everything from like how to budget, what's a P&L, you know, like, and we don't learn this stuff. I didn't learn any of this at Google. I was selling ads. Like I literally didn't learn how to be an entrepreneur. No one really teaches you that. So it's kind of like entrepreneurship school, our coaching program. So to give you a direct answer, if you were starting a business, come to IFundWomen, use the resources, watch the videos, join the Zooms where you're going to be in community with other new founders, then buy the coaching. I mean, honestly, it's super inexpensive and we teach you how to do everything. Most importantly, we teach you how to crowdfund, which should be the first stop on every entrepreneur's journey to prove demand for your product or service before you invest in supply. And by investing in supply, I mean wasting years of your life chasing an equity round that you're likely not going to get, or racking up credit card debt, or buying inventory for your bag line, or building your app, or whatever you're doing, where you're going into debt and you don't even know if people want your business yet. So crowdfunding is such an amazing like demand gen tool to see if people want what you're selling, with the happy byproduct of cash funding. It's not debt. You don't pay it back. It's not equity. You're not giving up ownership in your company. So I'm dogmatic about crowdfunding. I've crowdfunded 3 times. I want to do a 4th. My team is like, enough with the crowdfunding. Like, stop already. Seriously. I want to do another crowdfunding campaign because it's the best, in my opinion, when you're launching a new product or a new brand or a new company. It's the best way to find out if people want what you're putting down, is to crowdfund for it and see if you can get some fans.
Well, also too, you didn't mention, but a lot of entrepreneurs will typically do the first round as a friends and family round, right? So you're literally going to your family saying, will you give me enough money to live off of for the first 5 years while I can incubate this startup company and get this idea off the ground? And, you know, not everybody would necessarily have access to those kind of resources from their friends and family. So
You're speaking to one of them, by the way. I'm a self-made rich lady. I didn't come from this. So that's all. That is, Jessica, you just encapsulated one of the things I love so much about crowdfunding, is that you can have your community, you know, invest $10, $15. It's about selling. It's about raising small increments of money from lots of people that you know in your personal, professional, and social network to add up to just enough to get your business off the ground. And we have so many tools and resources that just teach people how to do it. It ain't rocket science. It's truly just sales and marketing.
Right.
So that's one thing you can do. And if you're a business services provider and you need new customers and you want to monetize, there are 91 business services that startups need to get off the ground, from accounting to legal to graphic design to social media to QuickBooks specialist. I mean, the list goes on.
Everything, yeah.
And so you can come on IFundWomen Services X Marketplace and you can monetize. And on the other side of it, you can buy services from vetted women entrepreneurs who are in business services. That's our latest thing, and it's so fun. I can't.
Cool.
I watch the transactions happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, it gives me all the feels.
That's great. I'm familiar with crowdfunding. I used to be in a band and we did Kickstarter campaigns for 2 albums that I made. So totally appreciate the benefits of that. Talk about the difference between, you know, like a Kickstarter or GoFundMe or something like that in IFundWomen.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we used Kickstarter to fund our MVP before we had IFundWomen. They didn't know that. But it's a great platform, but IFundWomen's better, especially if you're a woman. So yeah, so rewards-based crowdfunding, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, IFundWomen. So there's 2 kinds of crowdfunding. Rewards-based crowdfunding, where you're selling perks, maybe you were selling your album or like a download or whatever it is, in exchange for cash. Okay, so it's cash funding.
Right.
You don't have to pay people back, etc. Equity crowdfunding, the same thing. You're going out and hounding your friends, your family, your network, your marketing, you're doing all the things, you're bringing the funders, but you are giving up equity in exchange, which is also, that's great, but that's for a different type of business potentially.
Yeah.
So, and GoFundMe is really like personal charity. It's
Right.
less for business.
Mhm.
Um, Kickstarter definitely for creatives for
Mhm.
sure.
Mhm.
And iFundWomen is for business. We have everything from farm to table restaurants to data companies. Like we're
Mm.
sector agnostic. If you want to crowdfund, we will help you crowdfund. And it's actually interesting because people ask me all the time, they're like, what sectors do the best? I'm like, it's not about the sector. It's about the entrepreneur and their team and their willingness to prepare, use the iFundWomen Method Playbook, which is a free resource that literally reverse engineers crowdfunding,
Mhm.
starting from your network, maps it out, and then takes you to your goal,
Mhm.
takes that network and then does audience messaging and mapping, audience mapping and messaging so you can say the right things to those people.
Mm.
It's a whole process that we have put in place that is total plug and play for you
Mm.
to get your crowdfunding round done successfully.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so that's what we do.
Amazing. Talk about, you said this is your second or third startup, you said?
Second,
Second.
second and final.
This is it,
Alright.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Talk about, some of the challenges in starting your own business and, how did you overcome those?
I mean, the biggest challenge for me and for most women entrepreneurs is funding. I mean,
Mm.
it's so meta, and then the fact that Meta took the word meta, and now I figured out another word to use in the audience. If you could like give us some
Please
ideas on
come up
another
with
word
something else.
for like meta, which isn't meta, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But it is so we are our own customer. I started this business because I could not get funding for
Mm.
my first startup, which was largely the reason startups fail. They don't
Right.
have funding,
Right.
right? And again, for women, when you look at 2.2% of the dollars that are allocated go to female founded businesses, it's no surprise why businesses fail. When you don't have capital, you got nothing. It's
Right.
just it is what it is. You can't move without capital. You can't hire a team. You can't do anything. You're there with your idea and a bunch of sad margaritas. I don't know. But yeah, I mean that's it.
Yeah.
There's not like it's not a magical like, you know, it's not a black box like, ooh,
Right.
what's going on in there? It's like funding.
Right.
That's why
Being
startups fail. That's why I failed the first time. And the second time, we did a Kickstarter
Mhm.
for like our little seed money to build our WordPress
Mhm.
site with a
Yeah.
crowdfunding plugin and a Squarespace like subdomain for the pretty product marketing pages. This is literally, we called her Frankenstein.
Uh-huh.
iFundWomen V1, the MVP, her name was Frankenstein. She was part WordPress, part Slack, part Squarespace. And
Yeah.
by the way, she worked.
Right.
And then we were able to raise a seed round and raise capital and hire an amazing team. Shout out to the team. You know who you are.
Mhm.
I see Shaq, I see Harper on here. Love you guys. But yeah, I was able to hire an incredible team, which is actually everything. So for startup founders listening to this, the most important thing, you could have the best idea in the world, the most
Mm.
unique idea. It's not about the idea, it's about the execution. And the execution comes with hiring the best team. And the best team has to look like your customers, right?
Mhm.
It can't just look like all your buddies from B school or from, your last job or whatever it is.
Mhm.
You have to mirror your customer base. Period. End of story. And I think that's another one of sort of the things that we got right from day one. And
Mhm.
that's, a direct response to or indirect correlation with my education and what I, studied in college a million years ago. I understand why diverse brains, both from a race, ethnicity, and a gender perspective, drive a better business outcomes. Like I actually knew that from a long time ago. So here we are.
Right, totally. That was
Oh,
gonna be my next question, so thanks, you already just beat me to it. Talk about, what do you hope other organizations can learn from this fundraising model?
marry your customer base. That's a good one. I love that LinkedIn user. Um, I like these chats. I get a little
Yeah.
into it, Jessica. Okay, so what have I learned? I'm sorry, I totally got distracted. What was your question?
Oh, sorry. What do you hope other organizations will learn from your fundraising model?
Um, so that's actually really interesting because I was thinking, I think about this a lot. There is no one silver bullet, and pardon the metaphor,
Yep.
but there really is no one silver bullet in order to solve the funding gap problem for women. There
Mhm.
just isn't.
Mhm.
It's we had to really look at this through, okay, obviously, how do we get access to capital for entrepreneurs, but also how do we, um, without in any way being patronizing, because I didn't know any of this stuff either, but how do we teach and coach and encourage and cheerlead and be alongside of our sisters in the hustle together
Mhm.
and share knowledge and peer-to-peer collaboration? Like, all of these things are so important in
Mhm.
order to solve the funding gap problem, because if you have great collaborators, if you have connections to corporate partnerships, to follow-on capital, to banking relationships, and these are all things that IFundWomen facilitates. So there's the money piece, the capital,
Mhm.
there's the coaching,
Mhm.
right? And then there are the connections. And it's
Right.
interesting because for women of color entrepreneurs, and I just did those in order of importance for women entrepreneurs overall. Like
Mhm.
Amex does a study every year, Amex State of Women Owned Business, which is great, and Visa does a study as well. And it's basically all about like what are the barriers to access to capital. Number
Mhm.
one is like finding the people to write the checks,
Right.
getting in the room where it happens, right? Number two is the coaching. And number three are the connections.
Mhm.
For women of color entrepreneurs, because we launched iFund Women of Color years ago, before George Floyd, before the pandemic, all that good stuff.
Mhm.
Why? 75% of our entrepreneurs identify as women of color. And the funding ratio in iFund Women was completely lopsided. Our very small amount of Caucasian founders were raising most of the money,
Mhm.
and I was like, not on my watch. We built iFund Women of Color. Here we are.
Mhm.
In the process of that, we talk to our customers all the time. We do research with them. And what they told us, specifically the Black women entrepreneurs here in America, said, the coaching's great. We love that. Thank you.
Mhm.
We need the connections to the
Mhm.
banking relationships, to the
Yep.
corporate partnerships,
Yep.
to the money, to the places that can give us business, to the revenue. And
Mhm.
so I think what we have learned at iFundWomen and over the last 6 years, and as we continue to learn, is that there's no one answer to
Right.
solving this problem. So there can't be just one product. Like obviously, crowdfunding, it's a good product. It's
Mhm.
not the product that's going to solve the problem, right?
Mhm.
There,
Right.
that's one thing. Then there's the revenue gap problem for freelancing women.
Right.
Freelancing women make on average 30% less in
Mhm.
bookings than the dudes that do the exact same thing.
Right.
Why? Because they're charging less or they're not getting the business, because if they're going on these other marketplaces, people are seeing their little faces and they're clicking on the dudes because men are more trustworthy, says
Mhm.
science
Right.
and says history, right? So these are like the things that we think about,
Mhm.
and we remove those barriers for our entrepreneurs so that like they're in a world where there's 200,000 customers just like built in looking to hire, these graphic designers and lawyers and accountants,
Mhm.
and are actually happy that it's a woman's face,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. There was a saying that was going around kind of early in 2020, like right as the first lockdown hit, when people were like, "What can we do to support women? What can we do to support communities of color?" And there was this quippy saying that people started saying, which is hire and wire, which is like hire them and give them jobs and wire them money and invest in their products and their services and their companies and their ideas. Like in some ways, it's like those are kind of, the pieces as you outlined. There are some like core fundamental things that are missing, which is that connection to the money and the decision making power in a lot of spaces.
Yeah, and I also think that like the VC world, bless its heart,
Yeah.
is very it's a bubble. I mean, it's just a bubble, and like I get it. I know, I understand it. It's not, only 1% of companies, regardless of the gender of the founder, will ever raise venture capital.
Yeah.
1% of all companies. So the other 99% of companies, these are
Right. Businesses.
the businesses that we live off of, like in your neighborhood. It's the way we think of funding. And by the way, the best source of funding is revenue. Like we've
Mhm.
said that from day one,
Yeah.
and we will stand by that till the day is long. So, yeah, it's always interesting sort of looking at it through the VC lens and then like stepping back and looking at it through like real people lens. And hire and wire, that's a special saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's special.
Yeah. Talk about how many entrepreneurs have you served through your work, and talk about like the impact of your organization on folks who have benefited from these programs.
Yeah, so I'm very excited. I can't wait. Product people, hi, I have a JIRA ticket in to run our 6-year impact numbers. They're gonna be like, I cannot believe you just went on live stream
I
and told
live
us you
streamed
had
to
a JIRA
tell
ticket.
me that.
Yeah, fine. I don't care.
Sure.
Yeah, so as of a year ago, so these are super dated numbers, we've
Okay.
driven 135 million in funding. Those
Amazing.
businesses have created 30,000 new jobs. It's hockey sticked. It
Mm,
continues to hockey stick. We
mhm,
have 200,000 members of IFundWomen, and our members are real members. We know who they are. We are very involved with them.
mhm.
Um, and the impact that we've had, it's actually we are always looking at new ways and working with different research methodologies and data companies to figure out how do we measure the real impact, because we
Mm,
can obviously measure like the dollars, and we can measure the jobs, and we can measure some of these more hard numbers,
mhm.
but we know that the impact is so much larger, right?
Right.
And so if there's anybody watching this and has like ideas for how to really measure the impact of what we're doing, that would be great. Reach out to me, Karen at ifundwomen.com. If you're like a LinkedIn salesperson, don't spam me. But yeah, the impact that we have on women who are running their businesses is enormous, because not only are they driving funding,
Mhm,
we're also making relationships happen with them within their business sector,
mhm.
within their local community. We're driving new customers into their doors. And that like kind of mushroom effect is
Mm.
something that we're really trying to understand how to measure.
Right. How do you impact how that affects families, neighborhoods, communities, towns, even at large, too, and the impact that that has on society?
Yeah,
Uh,
well, we know that, sorry, Jesse, just to interrupt you really quick. We know, so when PPP2 came out,
yeah.
we know that we drove a very large amount of PPP loans to women entrepreneurs in our network, because we were referring people to one of the fintechs who was deploying the loans from the SBA.
Right.
So we know we know impact, and we know that like we have helped X amount of businesses stay open.
Right.
We had businesses coming crisis crowdfund with us as soon as as
Mhm.
soon as March 2020 hit,
Yeah.
when lots of businesses were like, oh crap, we're screwed.
Mm.
I hate to say it, but we were slammed, because people were like, we got to stay open. We got to crowdfund. We need to learn how to pivot. I started teaching how to pivot your business and your products based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and
Uh-huh.
looking at the bottom of the pyramid, of the
Right.
triangle. And okay, what are the things that humans need to survive?
Right.
If you are not selling a product or service that is in that group, the next one up is security, the next one up is, intimacy, friendship, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
You're not in these bottom 3 rungs of Maslow's, like, y'all gotta pivot or
Mhm.
reposition those PJs and to those luxury pajamas into being like a cute Zoom outfit.
Right. Yeah. It's
That's actually like
interesting to
real advice.
think too how, the work is almost never done. I was listening to I
Don't
heard a
say that, Jessica, I'm tired.
I know. I feel you. I totally feel you. But I meant more actually for small businesses, because I heard a story the other day about a small business owner in Jackson, Mississippi, which, as I'm sure many of you folks know, they're going through a clean water crisis right now. Imagine trying to operate a business during that. And this guy was telling about, like, he didn't think he was going to be able to stay open. So think about in times of emergency, when something completely unforeseeable that is a once in a generation thing happens, although those kind of things seem to be happening more and more and more, less more frequently than once in a generation. But like, how do you continue to maintain and operate your business, and thinking about crowdfunding as, you know, a continued source to keep you going throughout those crisis periods?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point, and that's why we always come back to revenue is the
Yeah.
best form of funding.
Right.
So crowdfunding is great in certain need states, like you're launching a new business, you're launching a new product, you need money in a pinch. That's great. And we help people do that, and people have crowdfunded multiple times with success. The fact that the idea that you can't go back to the well multiple times is a myth.
Yeah.
Um, but again, like revenue and building up your business to have consistent sources of revenue. And whether you're a service-based business, which is like a layup for us because we have hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs who need these business services. So people are just already buying from each other and building up each other's businesses.
Mhm.
From a consumer product perspective, that becomes more challenging depending on what you're selling, right?
Yeah.
And there's only so much that IFundWomen can do in the long term
Mm.
when, you're selling a product online, you're a D2C company, and, something happens where, people aren't buying your product or whatever it is. Again, like we can be helpful in certain ways and in
Mm.
certain time periods, but at the end of the day, um, if we've done our job well and we can get people at the beginning of their journey with entrepreneurship so they can have the best building blocks, a solid business plan, a solid plan for capital, a solid plan for what they're going to use that capital for,
Mm.
and execute and stay laser focused. If we can get people at the beginning of their journey or
Mhm.
beginning-ish, if you've screwed it up already, you're in good company. I did it too. Fine. Lather, just like start over.
Yeah.
No one cares. Failure means you tried.
Yep.
So come to us and get started, because if we did our jobs, if we do our jobs, we're going to start you off and set you up for success. We're going to give you the community that you need to connect with,
Mhm.
the partnerships that you need to grow your business, the revenue opportunities that you need to sustain and scale your business. And that's what we love doing. That's what gets me up in the morning.
That's amazing. Is there anything else that you wanna share with our audience before we leave?
Um, I would just say, yes, I would. So if you're wondering, like, well, that's cool. I'm not a woman entrepreneur, and
Mhm.
like, I don't have like a big check to write, or how do I support people?
Mhm.
I would say two things. One, there are thousands of entrepreneurs on IFundWomen who are crowdfunding,
Mhm.
and $25 in a share from a stranger is amazing. So
Yeah.
if you want to go fund someone, go to IFundWomen. You can use our little search bar. You can look for, if you want to buy Black owned businesses, queer owned businesses, AAPI owned businesses. If the list goes on, we have them all in special sections, and then everybody's there. So that's number one. Go fund something on IFundWomen. Spend $20, make somebody's day.
Mhm.
That's legit cool. The other thing is, vote with your wallet.
Mm.
Like, it's revenue is the best source of funding. Buy from women-owned brands. It's actually like not hard to find
Right.
brands that are owned by women,
Mhm.
and you know that's kind of what's going to move the needle, I think, globally on the funding gap for women.
Right.
So thank you for having me, Jessica. This was great.
No,
Got me all
thank
fired
you.
up.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations again on being an inaugural winner, and just thank you so much for all of the work that you do.
Thank you so much. And I want to shout out Shaq. I want to shout out Dana, Roswell, Gabs, Carolyn. I know I'm missing people who got us to the Anthem Award, got us to win. And I'm sorry if I'm missing you. Yeah, but thank you guys. You did this. You.
Thank you so much again. And thank you everyone for joining us today. So we'll be archiving this video. If you missed any part of it or want to share it with folks you think might be interested in it, it'll be up on our website probably tomorrow, and we'll go out in some emails at a future time. Don't forget, the final entry deadline is September 23rd. Make sure you get your entries in. Everything you need to know is at anthemawards.com. Karen, thank you again. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a wonderful day and have a great weekend. Thanks everyone.